Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. We actually were going to do coffee chat with the chickens by the chickens this morning, but y'all, we need to get rid of that big Brahma rooster because he never shuts up, and yeah, we didn't want to interrupt our coffee chat with that.
Yeah, we found before, which, I mean, we knew it was a thing, but to not really experience it because we've never been over on roosters until we got moved here. And yeah, you get multiple roosters, they don't shut up all day long. They're competing and competing, and when we have just the two, they're fine. You'll get a couple caws throughout the day, but not much. You know, they're much quieter, kind of just more reserved times.
I think I'll
you
reach
had a
out,
third one?
especially one this big. So I think I'm going to reach out to our friends Kaniki and Ron and see if we can't, see if they know someone that would want the Brahma. Because right now, we just don't have time to butcher for one chicken. So short of skinning them, it's whatever, and I'd can it anyway.
And he's young, so it's one of those that, you know, if someone's wanting to raise Brahmas, he'd be perfect. So
we took him in as free because we thought he was
yeah, and
we were gonna butcher anyway. We're like, oh, he's really pretty, let's keep her,
which was awesome. I mean, a matter of fact, he came by just the other day. The guy that gave us those chickens, because he needed to borrow a chainsaw. He was cutting down a bunch of trees on his property because he's had a big shed coming in, and his chainsaw gave up the ghost. So he came a knocking, which, you know, still is a new feeling for us here because
we're so remote that
we're so remote and we don't know too many people locally.
And the one time, okay, I do it a lot, but this happened to be the one time where I go to the bathroom, and y'all know we don't have a door on our bathroom yet in the tiny house.
Some of us, I guess sometimes we need to remind y'all that we have a main channel, White Rock Homestead.
Oh, true.
So some of you might be finding us as just Coffee Chat with the Chickens, and
that's fine, welcome. But
we don't have a bathroom door right now,
No, not yet, because the vintage door we had bought, we'd have to, it didn't work for the size, so we want to build a door, but because of weather and A, B, C, and D, it just hasn't happened. And so the one time where I go to use the bathroom, and mind you, our front door is straight ways to, oh, someone's getting gravel, but it ain't us today. Anyway, squirrel moment, my love.
Well, it just sounded like a really big truck. I was like, what the heck is...
Yeah, so right as I went to sit down, he knocked on the door, and we have a big glass entry door. So of course, he's gonna be nice about it, and I'm like, babe, there's someone at the door. Yeah, and you know, hopefully Big Booty Judy didn't show herself, but
you know, you take some certain advantages of living remotely and have privacy all the time, and so there might be a little incentive to get a door soon.
Maybe.
Nah, just let it hang out. Yeah. But
I've been up since 4:30 this morning.
Here you go, bragging about this getting up before the chickens.
So yeah, and I've got a busy day in the kitchen because I have got to get some baking and cooking done. And excuse me, I had domestics to do, so I was doing laundry at 5 a.m. I'd showered, I'd gotten everything done, and then, you know, you take a few moments to just kind of reminisce about some things, and started missing my family back in Tennessee. And so I started watching videos of back home, and, you know, I have a lot of aunts and my daddy, and we sang my whole growing up. I always felt like everyone had a Norman Rockwell holiday, you know, where everyone's gathered around the baby grand piano, and after dinner you sing hymns and you laugh, and, you know, me and my Aunt April would stick a little hot toddy in the little coffee, but, you know, that was our little secret, but made it for even more better times. But, you know, and I love that we moved to Arkansas. I don't regret it one bit, but your heartstring tugs at you, you know. And so then, of course, after sitting there for an hour going through all of these videos before my grandmama passed away, because she played beautiful piano, and of course I'm all teary-eyed before he's even up. He's still in dreamland, you know. And so, yeah, spent a good chunk of the morning on the phone with my Aunt Willa, who actually is more like a mother to me, with my mom passing so young. And I look just like her, so it's crazy, but yeah. And so spent quite a long time, talking to Aunt Willa, and talked to my daddy for a while, and he's feeling better. So thanks for all the prayers for that. And yeah, I miss home.
Yeah, it's the moments like that, guys, where
Sorry.
we get so busy though, and sometimes that busyness and distraction
Keeps us from missing.
It keeps your brain on the task at hand, what's directly in front of you, and you don't think about it. Honestly, I don't know. I think it's probably because I spent so much time in the Marine Corps, and I was gone away from most of my family, if not all of them, and I'm used to it. Honestly, with my side of the family, they're a bunch of drama mamas, just to make it plain and simple. So the only one I naturally talk to is my brother, and there's still always hilarious stuff going on. But every time I talk to anybody, I'm like, I'm glad I live 800 to 1,000 miles away from them. I miss them because of that family bond and connection, but times aren't what they used to be, where
in a sad way, really.
Yeah, and trying to bring families back together for holidays. I mean, most of you watching this probably remember, going through your childhood where you had a set of grandparents that every bit of the family would show up at their house.
With your cousins
and right, your
fought
cousins
with your cousins, played cards with your cousins and dominoes, and yeah.
And we've even talked about it. I've got a cousin that we grew up very close to one another, and at all the family gatherings and all that stuff. And we've tried a couple different times to do what we would call a cousins night, and get all of us together now that we're adults and have our own kids, so that our kids could experience it. But lives and times are so much fast paced today that it's hard. And families, not that they've grown apart as a family, but they've physically, location wise, because you raise your children and they've got to go, maybe they don't like the area that they grew up in or the situation, and so they move away typically it's for a job. Sometimes it's just, hey, I want to get out of here and I'll find whatever when I get there. I heard it a long time ago, was the invention of the automobile was the start to breaking families as a whole up, as what we think of our great grandparents generation, because back then you only went as far as you were willing to walk, or if you were lucky enough to have a horse and buggy, that's all the farther you went. And if you look at, I guess today's comparison would be, look at the Amish community, and they're much the same, where families don't move far away from one another. One, because they help one another, but they're so used to being there, and their horse and buggy, obviously there's multiple different.
Where can you go in one day? And I think that's a lot what is lost on a lot of our society today, is because 80 years ago, 75 years ago, even 100 years ago, families, you did have that whole slew of families all together, because your lives depended on it. Your food depended on it. You couldn't just run down to the local Piggly Wiggly and pick something up. You had to grow it, you had to raise it, and that took many hands. That took not just the work part of it either, because I remember as a child, doing those harvests and everyone coming together at the end and eating and having celebration. I don't know, it's just a different time. And I guess kind of that's where it leads us into, yes, we did move away, but with that being said, on our acreage here and on our homestead, and if you subscribe to the main channel, that one of our dreams, so kind of goes along with not being at a lack of projects, is we want to have at minimum 7 cabins here on the property, because together we have 7 kids. And
that is a question that was out, and we wanted to answer it here.
Oh, I left the list inside. I can't tell you who said it or whatever, but yeah.
But that was a question we had got was, the one you wrote down was different, was the how we were
Yeah.
met. But you bringing it up actually was the question I wanted to answer the most. Was yes, between the two of us combined. Now we actually were going to town on a supply run yesterday, and we were trying to do the math and discuss, like, okay, how many years have we been together? How many?
And I'm like, was it this? What, like?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that helped us kind of trigger, like, okay, this is the date it started, at least a year. And so the quick answer here is 6 years we've been together, and this summer will be
3 years married.
3 years married. And but we pay so little attention to.
We literally had to sit down and figure it out.
Yeah. Because this isn't, I guess without getting too many exact details going on, but I mean, we aren't our first marriages to one another. Actually, our children, we don't have any children together.
No.
Because we were much older when we got together. And, we attribute a lot of our relationship in the way we are. And we appreciate you guys noticing and all the compliments, because we are the same on camera.
Yeah.
I know another question, real quick sidetrack, and was, do you guys really talk that much in person? Actually, we talk more about everything off camera.
He's my best friend.
And communication is the biggest key to our relationship. And I think it's because we were older, we were more mature, and I'll use that term loosely on my part.
Yeah, y'all saw that picture this morning.
But we'd had, more experiences. Our kids were, granted, I had two.
Well, when we got together,
3 that were still teenagers.
We only had 2 graduated.
Yeah.
Jake and Zach were graduated, and then the other 5 were still in school. And so, because Kirsten then graduated.
Yeah, so we have 5. Or 7. Sorry.
7.
You're talking number.
Numbers.
We have 5 grandkids. That's the number that matters to us now, because we're grandparents. So it's like, how many kids? I don't know, but they gave us 5 grandkids. So we have 7 kids. I had 4 with my first marriage, and she had 3
with my marriage.
And if you guys haven't seen, but we do have 2 of them that are living with us right now.
Not living with us. They moved to the property. And
one's in Jenna's in the 5th wheel now, because we're in the tiny house.
Well, clearly we live in a tiny house, so there's not room for.
We built, and that was a goal even from the get-go, is knowing that we have 7 kids. I'm not building a house to house 7 kids, their spouses and children, when they're only going to come once or twice a year. Like, that's just silly, because then we're heating, cooling, doing all that stuff. So going back to what she was saying, was the 7 cabins is we want to utilize them on the times that our kids and grandkids aren't here visiting as quarters for our kids to come. Like, each one of them will have their own little cabin that when they come, and ideally we want them to have, within reason, we want them to have some design choices in it. We want it to be kind of catered to them and their family, and keeping in mind of growth. We've only got 3 out of the 7 have actually given us all of the grandchildren. And maybe the others will give us more. I don't know. They're kind of on the fence.
And in the future, if something should happen and they all end up here, which we would absolutely love, then they each have their own place on the 17 acres. And that means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the kids to have that place. So will they all be here all at one time? We don't know. But if you build it, they will come, right? And we just want to be prepared, because we want them all to be welcome. And
it's refreshing. Albeit some of the land and property is a little more challenging to build on. But we've never turned down a challenge. So it's refreshing, I guess, to know that we have the land and space available that we can allow. Because where we lived up north and the places that we had, no place that we've lived at before in either one of our lives were large enough to accommodate all 7 of our children
their spouses
and
or
now,
partners and,
they're adding on to have spouses and children of their own. So,
Yeah.
We have that availability here. We won't promise them the Hilton because it's not going to be that way, but they will have a warm, dry place out of the weather to sleep. And, that's what makes our heart feel good. And,
it doesn't make us miss them any less. And like we talked about yesterday, lots of FaceTimes and stuff. And, but yeah, we have those moments where, we desperately miss our kids and our grandkids and our family. And, it makes us appreciate the ones that we love the most.
And today, y'all, I don't even know if she follows this channel or not. And if not, I'm going to have to message her and let her know. Today's big.
Yes. So if you are on our Facebook page for the main channel, you know that it is our youngest daughter, Gabby's birthday.
And we have no more teenagers.
No. Oh, God. We have none. We have, they're all now out of their teens.
Yeah.
She was the last one. And, man, is that why you're moving a little slower this morning, baby? Yeah? Is it kicking in?
It's got the oil a little thick.
Yeah. So we just want to wish Gabby a super, super very much. Well, I mean, I already have, but yeah, happy birthday to Gabby.
Yeah. And it's mind blowing, y'all, to think about, like,
time flies.
Yeah. And for her, like, she has, one of our, you guys will see, Gabby always pops up as much as she can. Normally she's working, so she'll comment here and there. And then she's got our granddaughter that just loves watching Nana and Papa on the TV.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
super cool.
It is super awesome. And they're working on trying to at least get a visit down here. Arkansas is not a place that people said, hey, why do you move to Arkansas? And they give an answer for employment. It's just not. And that was honestly kind of giving a little more background on us. That was the first question everyone asked us when we were moving here. They're like, why Arkansas? Like, there's no jobs in Arkansas. We didn't move to Arkansas to work for somebody else. Now, obviously, we probably work harder on our own projects than we did on any job that we punched a clock at.
Yeah.
But it's
I don't know, man. Those 16-hour double shift nursing, short-staffed and 5 criticals, 3 IV. Yeah, I don't know about that. The homesteading just might be right up there with that.
Well, compare it to plotting and planning where things have to go, because that's how convenient. Like, for me, my brain power is exhausted just in trying to place everything.
Yeah, we're having a hard time deciding where we want to put the barn.
We had a spot picked out, y'all. We did, and
we're sitting at it.
It's right over here.
What do y'all think? These are some of our logs. Baby, you totally forgot to tell them where we were sitting.
They could see. We got a couple little sticks sitting here.
Yeah, got some toothpicks in the back.
We're in the lumber yard, y'all.
Yeah.
This actually is part of the original spot that I wanted to. Well, we had talked about it. This is where the barn was gonna go.
Yeah.
And so it was our largest area that we had cleared out for that intention. And then we got the sawmill set up, and we planned it. The sawmill was going to be along the back wall of the barn, so it was easy to put a lean-to over it, have it covered.
Yeah.
There was intention the whole way there, but now as we're
working the sawmill,
moving the logs around, needing a staging area for them, we're realizing that this space is really, really good for milling and log prep and that kind of stuff. So
we got to find another spot.
we've got to put the barn somewhere else. And I have a good idea of where we want to put it.
Mm-hmm. Well, 2 really good options. One is less work than the other, but it has its own work in the same breath. So I don't know.
I mean, none of it's going to come easy. It isn't.
No.
And I think the hardest part is trying to what works for us now, but then what's going to work for us in 5 years or 10 years. You know, because the whole age in place concept is what we're going with on our homestead. And
we're not getting any younger, y'all.
Right.
Big booty Jody hit the big 50.
And we don't want to, we don't have to worry about, I don't know, you keep talking like 50 is a big number. Like we keep getting, everyone that we talk to tells us you're still young. So
I try to. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah. So you're not, I don't think you're getting sympathy from anybody for hitting 50. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Congratulations, you made it to hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just, it's hard. Something that I never would have thought was going to be difficult decisions. And
is where to put stuff.
Yeah, is where to put stuff. Like you talk about, and we talked about it a little bit before, was, you know, the whole living the dream thing, right? And you know, the American dream of being able to own your own property and do what you want. And now we have it. And I I never put any thought process into, hey, this might affect something later on, you know, because we've never owned property at this scale with this much. Well, I guess your barn property up north, because you bought raw land and built the barn, so
yeah, you
had some leeway there, but still was somewhat restricted because of codes and limitations.
Yeah, Ohio was very, very strict. So
as to where here in Arkansas we don't have that. Like, there's codes, guys. There is. Like, that's a big misnomer out there. There are codes, but they're just not enforced.
Well, not only that, but Arkansas definitely recognizes the freedom to do what you want on land that you purchase and put the work into.
And it's I guess in a way you look at it, I mean, is impoverished the right term? Like, it's a fairly poor state. Like, they're when we looked it up, it said like the cost of living, it's one of the lowest.
Oh. Well, no.
So I don't know if I want to say impoverished. Right, but that's why.
Yeah, there's a high rate of poverty in Arkansas. A lot of it is due to industry.
Lack thereof. I mean, it reverts back to that, you know, nobody says they moved to Arkansas for a job. And if they did, it wasn't, you know, very high paying. I mean,
unless you're over like in Fayetteville or Little Rock or, you know,
I think cities, the big cities, there's probably something. But even then, I think the average wages in Arkansas, no matter what your profession, are much less than other places.
I mean, anyone can talk all they want about, you know, how low Arkansas is on the financial ladder, right? But I tell you what, I've never, short of being back in Tennessee, and that's even changed over on the East Tennessee side, but I've never been around more like-minded individuals, more nice. And not just nice, I'm not talking about like a gratuitous nice, but just a heartfelt, warm, fuzzy feeling of, dude, I don't know you, but I like you and I'm gonna say hi and I might even give you a hug. You know, just, it's that kind of, and it just kind of really identifies why we did choose Arkansas, because it's not just the beauty of the state, but it's also the beauty of the people. And there's just something welcoming about that.
Yeah, there are people, and that's what we like. And, you know, we've noticed even with people that move from faster paced lives that come to Arkansas, you know, to even live this lifestyle, everything goes slower.
Way slower.
which is not bad, because, you know, granted, there's times that, you know, maybe you make a service call on something and you're like, hey, it's freezing, I want my furnace fixed.
No, so get there. Yeah.
They're gonna get there when they get there. And, you know, so there's ups and downs to that, but the overall feel of just being here is way more relaxed, and you get to enjoy. I mean, I went walking. I know she was working on stuff the other day, and as Mel says, she was in the Matrix, y'all. And then shiny things catch my eye and curiosity, and I just started walking, you know, behind where you guys are at now, but some more of the property that we haven't cleared, and you just look and, you know, sit down on a rock and just enjoy looking at everything that we own, but then just the pure beauty of nature and how it's been worked over the years, and wondering, because there's evidence that this land was worked many, many, many years ago, and trying to think back of what it looked like before it got so overgrown and you know, I don't know. I love it, y'all. Like
we love it.
We wouldn't trade none of this for anything.
No.
And you know, we've got stuff to do today. I don't know what it is, because you know what? We've proven it the last several days that we've told y'all, hey, we're gonna do this, this, and this. And guess what? None of those things happened because other things.
They did, just not at the order or fast as we want them to.
But they happened. I mean, we did get some milling done. They were calling for rain, but you know what? I'm seeing some blue skies.
Well, it's supposed to be coming in at between 1 and 2. And if I'm going to be baking bread, I need to get on it, or else, because I can't bake bread if it's raining.
Yeah.
But we'll end this with the last question that we had. So the other question was, how did we meet? And it would be so hilarious to sit here and be like, Tinder. You know, no, guys, we didn't.
No.
We won't go into too many details, but my son, Zach, is a Marine. Jason is a Marine, and they had forged a very, very close friendship. And when God felt the time was right, he was single, I was single, and through Zach, we started talking. And it wasn't long before we realized that we had so much in common, and not just in common in like, oh, what do you like to do on a Friday night, but those core value things, what you want to do with your life, what you want is a person, just everything aligned so perfectly that neither of us could believe it, you know?
Yeah.
it was crazy. And
well, and I think the wildest part was the fact that we were, with us both being single at the time, and like you said, it was that connection Zach and I had as Marines, and just kept going on with it, which, I mean, obviously Zach is much younger, so, you know, we didn't serve together, but things led us through the Marine connection to be connected. And it's just been
beautiful.
Yeah, just refreshing.
And him and Zach are still very, very close.
And we are, and it was one of those, that's where I was going at. I'm glad you kind of paused for a minute, because, hey, shocker, I forgot where I was going with it. Was that we were both single and not necessarily looking with any kind of intention. It was, you know, that initial reach out was just out of, hey, pure friendship, you know. Hey,
and out of concern for Zach.
Yeah, and so it kind of made the initial conversations much more relaxed, and because it was like, hey, we're not looking for,
it wasn't a blind date,
a partner,
yeah.
Right? You know, when you talk to somebody the first time, you have this like standard set of questions, you know, trying to be like, well, is this going to be my life soulmate or something? And none of that was involved. It was literally just life in general, and it kind of almost hit us simultaneously of, wait a minute, you know, like, we have all the same likes. Like, how about we go to dinner? Why don't we, you know, meet up? Why don't, because of all this communication, y'all, we lived
2.5
hours away. So it's not like we could just go down after work and, you know, have a beer at the tavern, or, you know, so it had to be a little bit strategic. But
you sounded like Grandpa when you said that. Just go have a beer at the tavern.
Yeah. And I love it, y'all. Like, that's honestly where I got my overalls from, was my grandpa. And he's the one man, real quick before we end this, was the one man that's been to the tavern because of his industry. He was a contractor and heavy equipment operator and that kind of stuff. He's been in more bar fights than anybody I know, and he never has drank a drop of alcohol. He would be the driver for all of his coworkers to be able to get him home, so he'd be in there with a Coke sitting at the tavern, but he never drank alcohol, and he still doesn't drink alcohol. And he's like, I'll go have my Coke and make sure, but he goes, I wouldn't let nobody mess with my friends.
Yeah, always joking. Like, I'd go to leave for a 14-hour shift, and I'd go make that money so you can pay for our tavern bill.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Grandpa.
So
yeah, but anyway, yeah, that's it. That was kind of what started, and it was the most amazing blessing. I was living life, strong, independent woman. He was neither of us were looking for anything, and it was never Zach's intent either. It just happened.
Yeah.
And when it did, it was literally, you know how they say the stars aligned. Literally, the stars aligned. And we commuted for like 2 years because I still had to graduate Jenna. He still had 4 kids in school also. He wasn't going to be moving from Michigan. I wasn't going to be moving from Ohio. And so we had to commute. And when we weren't commuting back and forth, all we had was FaceTime and phone calls. So right away, we built that foundation of communication because we had no other choice. We were grown adults that had grown decisions to make that were for the betterment of all the kids in general, and doing what was best for the kids and putting our needs second. Did we want to just up and move to each other and start? Yes, we did, but we both recognized that our kids came first. So those 2 years of going back and forth and only having to be able to communicate by phone and every morning, it forces you to learn good communication skills. And we fortunately were both blessed with the ability to gab.
No,
And so for us, it just was natural and it was fun and it was fluid. And it wasn't until COVID that during the shutdowns when I said, okay, I can't leave my kids and go. So that was, I think you took, because we were locked down for what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that.
But I wasn't locked in on a job either. I was just doing random stuff.
And I was still on a traveling nurse contract.
On a contract. So it just made more sense at the time for that time that we were on the lockdown for me to go down there, and that just tightened the bond. And
it did.
That's when we made the plans to, after the lockdown, move to Michigan together. And we had purchased our home up there with the intention that was going to be, we knew we still had 2 years that we had to stay up there
until Gabby graduated.
And so we were like, let's just buy a home, we'll flip it, because that's going to be the best way for us to start our adventure here. We hadn't picked Arkansas at that point, but somewhere was going to be an option. And over the next 2 years, we had, 3 years really, had decided that Arkansas was it. And
I had a lot to do before I could move, because I had my original homestead that I had to sell. I had another house that I had to get ready to sell. So, where he's just like, oh, we got to wait 2 years. I'm like, holy cow, I only have 2 years. How am I going to get us all accomplished in 2 years? And so, that was a crazy 2 years. But we did it, and we got the flip, and, we're just frugal people, and it allowed us to start this being debt-free. So,
yeah.
But it wasn't easy.
No,
it wasn't easy. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well,
we got to wrap this up. Holy wow.
That sun is poking, and we
got
at y'all long
do.
enough. We appreciate every single one of you, and your comments that are coming in. We are loving them. And
we promise to get better as far as not letting these go 33 minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh.
They seem to be getting longer and longer and longer.
And the great part is, and they're getting longer because of you guys. You're asking the questions, and us to sit here for a half an hour and talk to you about those questions, then an hour trying to type them out is a lot better use of our time. And we get to enjoy your company and enjoy our property. So, guys,
we love you guys. Thank you so much for the huge amount of support from all y'all. We appreciate you. We are so sorry this went. I was literally like, we're going to stick to 20 minutes.
Yeah, no.
Joke's on me. So, all right, we got to get to work.
All right, guys. We'll
Peace
see
out
ya.
from the ridge.
Love you.